no silly opening for this one, let's just get into it. But before, pull my finger.
Oh, Jasmine. Oh, fucking hell, that's disgusting.
We're almost there, Q. We're almost there.
Servus Freunde, my name is Jimmy Cage and Alfonso Cuarón's science fiction thriller Children of Men is without a doubt one of the most gorgeous looking films I have ever seen in my life. It was one of the first movies that I saw in Vienna when I moved here in 2006, and in the 14 years since its release, it didn't lose any of its impact, quite the opposite. I think it's a modern sci-fi masterpiece. It is based on P.D. James's 1992 novel by the same name, but it also takes a lot of liberties and it changes crucial elements of it. Director Alfonso Cuarón even deliberately chose not to read the original novel because he didn't want it to compromise his vision for the project. The screenplay ran through a lot of changes. The novel was first adapted by Paul Chard, then rewritten by Mark Fergus and Hogg Osby, and once Cuarón came on board in 2001, he and Timothy J. Sexton began rewriting the script once again. After that, while Cuarón was doing Harry Potter and the Prison of Azkaban, David Arata rewrote the screenplay once more. To see that many different writing credits for a movie this great is more the exception to the rule, because usually that's more a troubling sign. But with an adaptation like this, it was a long process, and after all, though of big importance, the story and actual screenplay is just one element in the filmmaking process. And when you break it down, the story of Children of Men is quite simple. We have the year 2027 and the world lies in chaos because women have become infertile many years ago, and humanity is a dying breed. But miraculously, there is one pregnant woman, and the former activist Theo is trying to bring her to a sanctuary at sea. The film is basically a hero's journey, a reluctant hero who has lost hope and who regains his humanity and outlook at the world by helping that young woman and her child. Some have called Cuarón's adaptation an act of vandalism, but the author P.D. James was reportedly very pleased with the finished film, and she also appears in a small cameo. Not that it really matters all that much. After all, Stephen King also hated Stanley Kubrick's horror masterpiece The Shining. More people have to realize that a book is something completely different than a movie, and a movie that sticks very closely to its source material can be a good adaptation. But being faithful to the original is not what makes something a good adaptation. One of the film's strong points is how little is wasted with actual exposition or even more explanations. Cuarón has said that cinema is often a hostage of narrative, and that he's very good at narrative as a hostage of cinema. It's all about telling something with the means of cinema, and words and dialogue are just a very small part of that. The world building in Cuarón's Children of Men is absolutely terrific. His vision is remarkable, and that's something extremely important for a science fiction film. When I said at the beginning that this is one of the most gorgeous looking films of all time, there are several reasons for that, but one of them is that the world it shows feels absolutely real and tangible, and Cuarón let us be part of it for the nearly 2-hour runtime. The movie opens up with the death of the youngest person on Earth. Baby Diego has been murdered at the age of 18. What doesn't sound like the most shocking thing to us becomes something quite different in the world of the film. In a world where no more children are getting born, the death of the youngest human being on the planet has a lot more meaning, and it's another step towards utter hopelessness. While all people in a little cafe are in shock about the news, our protagonist Theo, played by Clive Owen, seems to be rather unaffected. As we learn in the next scenes, he has become pretty cynical and doesn't seem to care anymore. But before we learn that, there's also a bomb exploding right next to that little cafe. The world of Children of Men is in constant turmoil. The production design is incredible, and everything that you see and hear, newspapers in the background, graffiti on the walls, dirty streets, people in cages, burning horse carcasses in the countryside, reports on TV, and so on. Everything is contributing to make this world come alive and feel real. The film has such a dense atmosphere and also its own unique vision of the future. Movies always share some connections and similarities with other iconic dystopian depictions of the future. A little bit of Blade Runner, some touches of RoboCop, but Children of Men is its own unique beast, and it is environmental storytelling at its best. The first 25 minutes are used to introduce us to this world and its characters. Theo and his friendship with Michael Caine's Jasper, who lives secluded and hidden in his self-sufficient home in the woods. Julianne Moore plays the leader of an activist/terrorist organization, and she and Theo were also a couple in the past and had a child that died a long time ago. Danny Huston plays Theo's cousin Nigel, a high-ranking government official who rescues works of art. All these characters and places form this enthralling world, and Children of Men is one of those films that I like to describe as films and worlds that have these big and rich pasts, this big backstory that is hinted at without simply explaining it in detail, this fascinating and meaningful backdrop in front of which the actual story unfolds. Without giving anything away, you could also twist it a little bit, because Cuarón himself has said that when the final credits roll, that's really the beginning of the film. So everything that we watched, which is really just a very short time spent in the lives of these characters, is only the beginning of the actual bigger story that begins when it's all over. Now, as great as those first 25 minutes are, the film really kicks into high gear when Theo meets Key for the first time, the young woman he will protect for the remaining film. It is in a small car, and little do we know when we watch it for the first time that we will be treated with one of the most intense and incredible continuous long shots ever put on film. Cuarón puts us right in the middle of that car that is now getting attacked from all sides. It is such an artistic achievement, and it will make your heart pound hard. Children of Men features a lot of long continuous tracking shots, but there are three in particular. One of them being this country road ambush, the other two being the birth of the child, and last but definitely not least, more or less the finale of the film, a 7.5-minute long shot in which Theo is trying to fight his way back to Key in the midst of an ongoing battle in the streets. Now, those long shots are actually composed by more than just one and digitally blended together, but that doesn't take away anything from their impact. Towards the end, Children of Men becomes very much like a war movie. Cuarón, who has won Oscars for Roma and Gravity, is a visual master, and so is his director of cinematography, Emanuel Lubezki. What they put on screen is outstanding, and combined with the impeccable sound design and mixing, the production design, and of course the intense performances by all actors, you really do feel as if you are there in the scenes. And there are so many details that enrich this world, references to religion, politics, real-life events and so on, visual connotations to the most gruesome times of human history, motifs that remind of the Holocaust, direct links to prison torture pictures that went through the news. In the world of Children of Men, England is the one remaining country that has not completely fallen into chaos, and therefore millions of refugees try to escape death and get there. But its government is ruthless, and in a world with seemingly no hope, most humans have become even crueler, and people are treated like dirt, put into cages, getting shot without remorse. And the saddest part is that the movie rings even truer today than it did in 2006. But all this despair and misery makes Theo's journey and the birth of that new baby all the more powerful. This is the event that can bring hope, that might turn the world around again. A tiny newborn life in the midst of all this gunfight and carnage. The religious undertones are pretty obvious without letting the movie appear as just another chosen one storyline. Theo learns about Key's pregnancy in a stable, which evokes the birth of Christ, which also happened in a manger. And Theo is so surprised that he shouts out,
Jesus Christ.
The name Key is also a homophone for chi, which means energy or force of life itself. And Theo is just such a wonderful reluctant hero, and the way his journey unfolds is rousing. Films can really shine because of small details or peculiar decisions. Like John McClane, Theo has a problem with his shoes, and a long stretch of the film he has to get along with nothing but flip-flops. It's also quite remarkable how action-packed the latter half of the film is, and yet Theo not only never fires a gun, but he doesn't even touch one at any point throughout the movie. And Clive Owen's performance as he really lightens up again once he is able to protect Key is quite touching. He also seems to be liked a lot by animals, because whenever there is one, it seems to be drawn to him. It seems they can sense that he is a good protector, and not like other parties in the film that want to instrumentalize the baby for their causes. But again, the absolute strong point of the film has to be its audiovisual presentation. Of course, always paired with the meaningful themes and the clear, goal-oriented, simple but strong story. But the way the film looks and feels is just remarkable. And through the camera work and all the intensity, the film creates a very documentary-like feeling, as if we are live at a theater of war. A sort of direct cinema approach where we take part in it without much explanation. That last long tracking shot has more power to it than most other films in total. Of course, it took tremendous effort, and the blood that splatters on the camera lens wasn't even intended, but just an accident that almost ended the take. But in the end, it was a happy accident, and though it draws attention to the fact that there is a camera, it paradoxically also adds even more authenticity. The way Children of Men unfolds reminds me quite a bit of Sam Mendes' World War I drama 1917. Only that I regard it much higher. And while I criticized Mendes' film for its similarity to video games, Children of Men also reminds me of such, but in a much more positive way, where 1917 oftentimes evoked a feeling of a somewhat contrived quest structure. Children of Men's world building and exhilarating action set pieces and locations reminded me of dystopian games like Half-Life 2 and BioShock, which also both start in a world that is already on the verge of collapsing. So in German I'd say, Children of Men ist ein modernes Science-Fiction Meisterwerk, audiovisuell absolut brachial in Szene gesetzt, mitreißend, unglaublich atmosphärisch und einfach einzigartig. I give Children of Men 9 out of 10. It's more like 8.7, but I don't do that.
Pull my finger, quick.
Oh, Jasmine. Oh, fuck.
Alright, that's it like always. Comment below and let me know what you think about Children of Men. And also let me know what is your favorite film by Alfonso Cuarón. You can hit me up on Twitter, Instagram and Letterboxd, and now also on Patreon, simply at the Jimmy Cage. And as always, if you enjoyed this episode, please give me a thumbs up, share, subscribe, whatever you like. And make sure you hit that bell for all I have to tell.